Hi, everyone. Today, I'll be talking about how we build for the user at Pandora. My name's Jon. You may have seen Jack Kroshik's name out there in the pamphlet and on the little sign out there. He's actually my boss. We decided my name's easier to spell, kind of, so I'm just going to be the one doing this for now. I'm a product manager on Pandora's native advertising products. And through the course of this presentation, I'm going to discuss some key ideas that we adhere to when we build our ad user experiences. We'll talk about how the rules for building ad products shouldn't really differ at all from how we think about building consumer products. And we'll also touch on some ideas for how to monetize your apps without breaking your user experience. And honestly, if you're just wondering why an ads guy from a streaming music company has anything to even say about mobile gaming, I just hope that I can show you that there's a really good link, actually, between music and gaming. I wasn't always an ad products guy. I have a fairly varied background that's led me to what I think about advertising today. I started as a product manager at Avid, and I worked on the Pro Tools hardware and software platform. During that time, I learned that people's judgment of how their hardware and software sounds is actually based as much on the look and feel of those products as it is on the reality behind that sound. After that, I had a full-time stint as a musician. This one's a little more embarrassing. I don't know why I look so peeved on the left in that photo shoot, but it's probably because I decided to bring a headband to a photo shoot. Just don't do that ever. But during this time, I did learn a lot about both self-promotion and audience acquisition, often via some very unorthodox ways of advertising. After that, I worked on a marketing SaaS platform at a company called This Moment. This is where I found that the best advertiser impact usually came from a delightful, user-centric experience where people could generate their own branded content as opposed to having marketers push their message in more of a one-way conversation. And across all of my experiences, whether with music, This Moment, and now Pandora, something's become clearer and clearer and clearer to me. If I've learned one thing, it's that you don't build ad products for advertisers, you build ad products for users. And that's led our team at Pandora to the following mantra. What's good for the user is good for the advertiser. What is good for the user is good for the advertiser, and by a transitive property, that also means something even cooler. It means that all good ad products are good consumer products first. These are words that we should all be living by. So, what makes a good consumer product? I'm so glad you asked, or I asked the rhetorical question at least. Let's start out by talking about Mario Brothers. It may seem like a random place to begin, but I'm getting somewhere with this. When I think about Mario, a rush of emotion and memory comes back to me. I remember everything about playing this game as a little kid. I remember what the carpet in my family's house felt like. I remember the calluses on my hands because of that stupid 8-bit boxy NES controller. I remember blowing the dust out of cartridges. And I remember everything about this game that actually is really absurd. And I think to myself, what was actually making me do things like think to myself, I'm a pixelated plumber and I'm going to punch some blocks. And sometimes I hope a mushroom comes out of that block. And sometimes I'm going to try to chase that thing and not die. And when I get it, I'm going to grow larger. And that's, for some reason, it's going to make me happy. I mean, why in the hell would I ever do this? Why would I find this fun? Why would I have such an emotional resonance with this 25 years later? And it's my belief that our motivations to perform these absurd little activities in games and in every user experience in general can be described in a framework that contains 4 attributes. You have a context, a trigger, an activity, and a reward. The context is relatively self-explanatory. It's the current state, location, or mindset of your user. I'm Mario. I'm on level 5, and I'm small and not large. The trigger is a careful matching of some behavior or signal from the user with some external input from you, the game maker. So in Mario, this might be my size compared to the fact that there's a block that's suddenly appearing in front of me. And the activity then is what you're trying to get the user to do. It's what you want people to do when they use your product. It's a sudden shift in behavior, and you hope that you can influence the shift because it benefits not only yourself, but the user. And then there's the reward. That's the warm and the fuzzy stuff. It's why, still to this day, I remember every little thing about playing Mario Brothers and how good it felt to actually catch that mushroom and suddenly have a little animation and bip, 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 grow twice my size. Now let's actually look at this framework and try to apply it to some more real-world examples that are a bit more modern. Start out with Flappy Bird, easily one of the biggest breakout hits of the year and really in all of mobile gaming history. And its user experience is exceedingly simple, yet the framework still fits. We have a context. I'm bored. Any good presentation has to have some cute animal photos, right? So being bored is probably one of the most common contexts that we seek out when we're trying to acquire and re-engage our audiences for casual mobile gaming. And maybe to address this boredom, I'm flipping through my feed on Twitter, and I noticed, hey, someone just tweeted their Flappy Bird score. Now, I don't know this person, I don't really care about this person, but they do have a higher score than I've ever gotten. So I have to beat this score. I just have to. So I open Flappy Bird, and the activity is dead simple. I tap, my bird flaps, try not to hit any pipes, and the performance the whole way through is judged with a single, simple score that's always front and center in the middle of the UI. But the reward is something meaningful. I'm no longer bored. I've actually wasted my time enjoyably. I don't regret playing Flappy Bird. And if I actually got a nice high score, that kind of maps to my sense of self-worth. It's really, really lame to admit it, but when I do really well at Flappy Bird, I kind of feel cooler for it, and I guess I should feel really pathetic as a result. Minecraft's a little bit deeper here. Minecraft has a bit more of an inspired and creative feel behind the context and the trigger. Let's just say that I'm bored again, but I'm on my way to work, and I see a building with some sort of design that inspires me. I know that my bus ride takes 45 minutes, and hey, I have my mobile version of Minecraft. That's just enough time to kind of do something to act on that inspiration. The activity may seem complex in its world building, but it's actually very simple. It's hitting some blocks, placing some blocks somewhere else. But what that all adds up to is this really awesome feeling of not just no longer being bored, not just knowing that I've wasted my time enjoyably, but that I have this sense of creative accomplishment. That's a really cool feeling, and it's something that actually Flappy Bird doesn't do as much. Minecraft does amazingly, and there's a better sense of emotional resonance as a result. Pandora. There's a lot of contexts for wanting to listen to music. I could be going on a run, about to host a party, be going to sleep. And the triggers here, though, are I'm about to start some sort of endeavor. And maybe we try to map to that signal by understanding, oh, it's July 4th weekend. You might be having a party, so we're going to give you a push notification about some great new July 4th stations. We're trying to find something to help map to your endeavor. And the activity, though, is ridiculously simple. It's one click. And there's no exploration requirement. There's no friction between my trigger moment and the reward. And it's really important to note that we're not creating any new special behaviors for users here. This is just like turning on the radio in your car. So the trigger is simple, and it influences your activity. The activity is also dead simple, but it's optimized to achieve what we want. That is, users who are tuning in as often as possible. And all of that optimization leads to a reward that we really hope users are constantly desiring. The music keeps me company, and my endeavor has a soundtrack. So in a sense, we're kind of the combination of Flappy Bird and Minecraft. There's this simple, mindless tap. It's like what vaults, Flappy Bird over the next pipe. And it's this simple activity that leads to an artistic and creative experience that's more akin to something like Minecraft. And it's my firm, firm belief that this combination of simplicity and a rewarding payoff is why Pandora is actually successful today. It's why we're the #1 mobile app for time spent. It's because we ask incredibly little of our users, and we try as hard as we can to give them incredible results in return. What's the common story behind all these examples? It's this guy. To be clear, this guy's the user. He's not just a guy who likes turtleneck sweaters, although he is in this case. But he's not us, the company. He's not some advertiser somewhere. He's a human being, and he has emotions. And we're not building to make this guy do thing X or thing Y. We're basing ourselves on how they feel and what they might desire, and how as a result of them doing that thing X or thing Y we wanted, they get something in return. So let's go back to our mantra. All good ad products are good consumer products first. And after we've repeated this enough, let's think about common rules for product building, about how to make that good consumer product first. So in the end, your product should only really be focused on doing one thing. Every product does one thing. Okay, of course, your product actually does more than just one thing, but you should be focused on just one thing, because one feature will drive the majority of all of your usage. Let's just validate this with some pretty obvious examples. Twitter, there's the feed. That's their one thing. Twitter has lots of secondary features. They have notifications, they have messages, but that's not why they're successful today. On Pandora, listening to a station in the Now Playing experience is the vast majority of our users' behavior. And by comparison, these right here, these are secondary features. Things like The alarm clock, the sleep timer, adding variety to your stations. I like these features, I think they're awesome, but they're not the reason that tens of millions of people use Pandora every day. And that's not to say secondary features aren't helpful. They can be a great differentiator, they can capture power users, but it shouldn't be your focus if you're trying to reach a mass audience. And in the end, ad products need to scale to reach mass audiences. So how can you focus on monetizing without losing sight of that one awesome thing that your product does? And it's actually simple. You just think, what's your one thing? If every good product does one thing, that's what you build your ad product to do too. And that's the heart of native advertising. It's getting advertisers to pay for the right to become part of the user experience, and it's encouraging and monetizing existing user behaviors without creating new ones. Let's look at how Facebook does this today. I read posts in my newsfeed, catch up with people I know. That's really what drives my usage of the app. That's what drives the majority of their users to their app. And that's what their native ads do also. They're just more posts in my newsfeed. They may be from marketers instead of my friends, but they don't ask me to change my behavior from what I'm already doing in the app. On BuzzFeed, I read BuzzFeed because I like reading articles. I hope that they're going to make me laugh, entertain me. And the native ads they have are promoted stories that do the same thing. That's really important here. They may be marked as promoted, but I get the same organic reward out of them as I do with their non-monetized content. On Pandora, I listen to music. That's my one thing. And our native ads are also focused on ways to let you listen to more music. Brands can create these listening experiences all of their own. And it may be with stations they've seeded or curated. Maybe they've even licensed their own exclusive content. But the important thing is the right content from them for their audiences means that listeners won't consider this advertising to be at all in the way. It's adding value instead to the one thing they do most on Pandora, which is listening. I listen to music. This brand gives me a listening experience with the music I like, and they've asked for very little effort in return. Ergo, I like this brand. Now, you may still be asking yourselves, why should we even care what works for a music service? We're game developers here, right? And obviously, music and gaming are profoundly different, but I actually disagree with this. I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, I'd talk a bit about how to tie all the stuff back, and I haven't forgotten. I think the framework works really well when we think about a context for feeling stressed. We deserve one last little cute photo here, sure. The reward is interesting because both gaming and music solve this problem. In an eMarketer study, 50% of respondents said that stress relief is their main goal for mobile gaming. And likewise, in a study by the APA, over 50% of people said they use music for stress relief. That's actually even higher for millennials. That's what I like to call a magical native advertising moment. And what makes it magical is we have two solutions that work together to solve the same problem. Promoting a game to a music listener can still be entirely user-centric. If we know that users are gamers and that they're listening to certain music, potentially in order to relieve some stress, then both the organic user experience and the monetized ad product that drives users to your games, they both are solving the same thing. And further than that, we know that jumping into the game won't interrupt your music. That's awesome. It's beneficial to not only the advertiser, not only the user, but to us, the publisher, as Pandora. People will keep listening. And because music listening is also highly emotional, it means people are coming into your games highly primed to emotionally resonate with whatever experiences you have to offer them. And that's just, there's lots of ways that music and gaming go together. That's just one of many. One other that I like is that 76% of Pandora users who are also gamers have responded that they use Pandora at the same time as they play their console games. Music and gaming go really well together. They're a winning combination. So you have to ask yourself, how do you find these magical native ad moments in your own game products? How can you monetize what you have without disrupting your user experience, and beyond that, by enhancing it? Well, if we follow our framework, it's all about understanding your behavior and the core feature that drives your usage. What are you dead set on doing best? And then all you have to do is find a way for advertisers to add value to this behavior. Let's look at Hero Academy. I freaking love this game. I'm addicted to it. I play it way too much. My fiance is probably going to call off our wedding if I keep playing this stupid thing, but I just love it. What's the core behavior in Hero Academy? Well, it's that I compete strategically with teams that have various strengths or weaknesses. And Valve did something very cool with them recently. They actually built a Team Fortress themed team that you could buy. You had to be registered on Steam to actually access this offer. But this is really, really some kick-ass cross-promotion because it adds value to the core user experience. They asked themselves if Hero Academy is all about coordinating teams. How can advertisers create cool teams for themselves? And Valve executed on this really well. In Pandora's case, we think if it's all about listening to stations, how can marketers create cool stations? And every day now, we have millions of listeners tuning into these really great stations where advertisers have guided the curation, and they've now acquired this audience that they can habitually re-engage and re-engage, and the whole time be addressing with powerful sequential messaging. And that's native advertising. When we build ad products, we need to put all of our focus on aligning our ad experiences with the context, trigger, activity, and reward for the user. And when we use this framework to understand our core user behaviors and know how to leverage those for monetization without creating any new ones. So I've already been repeating this 100 times, but if there's just one thing you can take away from this presentation, just the one single soundbite, it's that all good ad products are good consumer products first. And when we follow these rules, the consumer's going to win, the advertiser's going to win, and you're going to win. But none of that can ever, ever, ever happen unless the consumer wins first. Thank you.
So if you had to choose between your fiance and the video games.
I would choose her, but it's tough.
Off the stage, man, off the stage. Any questions for this wimp? Come on, someone's got a question.
Would you have any good suggestions on books that you've read that help explore this category a little more?
Books that I've read on it. You know, I'd say more than the reading on it, it's just finding products that you really, really love and trying to look for the ways that they monetize that you didn't notice. I think that's more important than reading anything or even talking to other people about it. It's just using different products and seeing what are the experiences you love, why do you love them, and if it's a free game, for example, what are they doing to monetize that's not just something that gets in the way of the user experience.
I'm curious that your two examples seems like the product worked very closely with the advertisers. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a necessity, or do you see? I know there's a lot of SDKs and things where you can Tapjoy and these where you sort of get ads pulled into your game that you have not a lot of control over. Do you see this translating to that, or how would you use this message in that scenario?
Yeah, I'm generally biased toward native advertising, but I think there's also always a place for the scale of networks and the ability to pull, especially if you're a smaller game maker, for example, that's vital. I mean, you're not going to be able to direct sell into every big brand out there. But I think that we still have yet to really see that scale of those networks match up, because I think that you can still decouple the advertising experience from the reward that the user gets, and make sure that by providing something to the user, it's not just you saying, I need money to do this, so I'm going to get in your way. But if I have to get in your way, you're going to get something for return.
So, John, you're the product manager of a product that so many people use on a daily basis. Speaking to other product managers, because I'm sure there are many at this conference, what's your number one advice to product managers? And it's a pretty unique experience that you have in your own work life. What would you tell other product managers out there?
Yeah, I think it's that ad products aren't really ad products. It's that if you're making the user happy, then that should be what makes the advertiser happy. Advertisers can't think to themselves, I don't care what the user wants because I want them to think this way or get this message. You have to find the right way to become a facilitator for their message where it actually makes the user happy to receive an advertisement. And I think that's something that we're still in the very nascent stages of how can users be happy when they see an ad as opposed to really pissed off about it. There's always targeting. That's a big thing that will come into play of that. But then there's the user experiences themselves. But I think that's what I'd say every product manager in ads should be thinking about.
Excellent talk. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon ECCLES.
Thanks a lot.